This is going to be a really personal talk with the number of people in here. So if you guys have any questions and they're burning during my talk, feel free to jump in. So yeah, I'm going to chat with you guys about selecting the perfect commerce platform and why that is a tough hunt that I see quite often. So I made this meme and I thought it was really funny while I was making it. I was like, what am I going to put up for my opening slide? So I'm Becky Parisotto, as Jared said. I'm the director of BD with Acro Media, and Acro Media is a digital consulting firm. We specialize in architecture for e-commerce and subscription businesses. So we'll do a little bit of a dive into what that means as we go on, but that is what we're going to chat about today. So just to set the stage a little bit about how I see most subscription companies come to be on the web, they basically start by selecting their commerce platform first. That's the most common way that we see this happen. And when I say select their commerce platform, I mean that they've gone through, they've done a business plan, they've developed out their company idea, they have their brand, and then they think, how do we get on the web? So it's typically a matter of shopping and comparing platform against platform, and you're looking at WooCommerce and you're looking at Shopify, and you pick a platform and you go live. So in this example, let's say that we've selected Shopify, and the first thing that happens after that is you add on a subscription app or module or widget extension type of a thing. And now you have recurring monthly billing, and you have customer data flowing through, and you are a subscription company at that point. From there, often to fulfill your business needs, you have to add on a whole bunch of other apps, widgets, modules around fulfillment, inventory, CRMs, order processing, all of the little bits and pieces that make your world go round online to be an end-to-end business service. So this is really the most common way that we see companies develop, from being an idea to being live, selling something, to selling with all of the added features needed on the web. What happens in this model quite often is that all of this data is disconnected and somebody's in charge of porting it over manually, quite often to something as simple as a spreadsheet, so that you know where your business is at each month, you know where your stock and inventory is going, you know what the numbers are, so that people can make decisions and continue to grow and scale and all of those important things. So this is the most common cycle that we see, and we often meet clients when they've gone through this exercise, they're revenue positive, and they're in that stage where they're adding in data manually over to a spreadsheet. So this is that fruitful but somewhat uncomfortable growth spurt that we're all hoping for. If you've gotten to this stage of discomfort, that's a good thing. That means you have a positive problem where you're having a bottleneck caused by success. Some of the most common language that I hear surrounding this sort of problem, the pains that come up, are my front-end customer journey experience is limiting, or my content management system is disconnected, or I'm doing swivel chair processes, I'm typing orders from one system to another. So this is actually a very positive place to be, but this is the most common time when we hear from customers that they're going to start this concept of the hunt for the re-platform. So I don't know if re-platforming is language that you guys use, but essentially it means to move from whatever your current website system is over to that newer, bigger, shinier one that you're after. So you start shopping. This is where we meet a lot of people. They come to us because they're suddenly shopping for a new website platform. The new website platform cycle looks something like getting demos from sales guys like this. And in those demos, he's going to be able to show you every one of the features and bells and whistles that you feel like your business has been lacking. And a really common language that we hear is that they want to have a robust subscription model, integrated stock and inventory, and there's this buzzword, turnkey solution. I don't know exactly what that is. It means something different for every business. I don't know if it's out there. I haven't seen one that fits everybody's business model exactly. But this is really the most common language that we hear when people are shopping. So you're getting all of these demos from various platforms and the sales guys associated with the platforms. And in that moment, you can really make a demo fit anybody's need. So whatever the problem is, there's suddenly a solution. And so this is usually when we meet people and they have a list of features that they need, and they're trying to figure out, can I buy these features from you? Just to be clear, these platforms, typically SaaS models, that you're paying for annually and sharing your revenue with, they're brilliant. They have these extremely robust feature sets that you likely will never be able to accomplish in-house. They have billions of dollars behind them, they have very large development teams behind them, and you got to be able to move at the speed of their development. That's brilliant. So as we kind of move on in the talk here and we get into the next point, keep in mind that I'm not suggesting that you need to abandon the idea of having a robust platform for your e-com business. That's always going to be the case, but, and I think you feel the but coming, that the reality of an e-com platform is that it's simply a transactional system. So the transactional-based system is now running the back end of your business, but it was never meant to handle something like a content management system. It was never meant to handle multi-channel marketing. It was never meant to handle personalization and customer data and AI and all of these things that you have to have in order to be competitive and to be able to get to that next level of business. But you're suddenly reliant on it because you have to think about the human impact of all of those bubbles in that diagram. There's somebody that works in fulfillment, there's somebody that works in accounting, and you're going to impact their role if you make changes. And so this transactional-based system has become quite delicate. It's the center of your universe, but it was unplanned, and now it's a bit bloated and a bit brittle, but you have people that know what to do with it. So the change management behind selecting new software and being able to evolve your business online is also extremely impactful to what the people are doing within your business. So again, the reality of an e-com platform is that it's just meant to sell a product and take money online, but we've turned it into the center of our business model. So how do we get away from that? This is what we specialize in at Acro, and that's architecture. So architecture is quite a wordy description, so I'm going to try to simplify it if you're not familiar with what a digital architecture is. A digital architecture is essentially how do all of your software platforms and all of the bits and pieces that run your digital world, how do they connect, and how does data move between them? So the important thing about architecture is that it allows you to have very siloed and isolated pieces of functionality. So let's say you use Salesforce for your CRM. You want to swap it out one day and you want to use HubSpot instead. That should be an option for you, and it shouldn't break all of the other pieces that move your business behind the scenes. So it needs to be extremely siloed in that regard, but it also has to be very connected from a data perspective. It needs to be able to pass data back and forth to your warehouse because you don't want to have to send a manual spreadsheet at the end of each business day and say, here's what we need fulfilled. You should be able to do that automatically. So architecture is a lot more about flexibility and scalability in your company as opposed to just growing. So picking a bigger platform, you'll probably get to a stage where you need to do that, but that bigger platform should just be a component within your architecture, not the center of your business model. So there's a lot of ways to describe architecture, and it's a very abstract concept. These descriptions come from Gartner research, so that's why this language is a little bit wordy. And please keep in mind, I'm not suggesting that there's such thing as a bad architecture. If you're here and you're a business owner and you have a platform that is running your business operations, you are the purple bucket. You're commerce-led. And this is where 90% of companies begin their journey because they didn't have the financial backing or the time to start somewhere further down the road. Architecture works on a scale as well. So you don't pick one of the three buckets. You pick what works best for your model, and you can live anywhere on this scale. So as you try to move away from being dependent on a platform running your business, you're probably trying to move to the right. That's usually the goal of most companies. So commerce-led, what that looks like in the real world, that looks like you have a website, it's super off the shelf, you can't get in there and mess up the code, you can't really customize it, and you don't have much control over the front-end experience. That's commerce-led, very common. Experience-led is that, but you can probably add in a couple of custom integrations fairly easily, and you have a better content management system or CMS on the front to tell your brand's story. So that's kind of a sweet spot for a lot of people. A lot of companies in the 10 to 25 million revenue range can hang out in that orange bucket for a long time, comfortably. As you grow, or your product becomes extremely customized or unique or your fulfillment process is very customized or unique, you need to get down to the blue end. API-led basically means that you're running in a decoupled manner or a headless manner. Those are just development buzzwords that really mean everything that I do in my business is a small service integration, and I can feed data from anywhere. So this is extremely centralized data. So I always get asked the question, this is an example to maybe help enlighten. I get asked the question, how do you deal with B2B versus B2C? And if you're in that blue bucket, the answer is always, there's no difference between them because your data is centralized and I'm just serving up a different experience to two customers, but there's nothing fancy going on in the background that I have to log into two different websites to fulfill my orders, stuff like that. So again, this is a full scale of architecture, and you pick the parts that work for you. You might not need a full headless setup, but you might need some parts of it to pair into the orange bucket. So when do you know if your business needs to make a leap to architecture and stop that replatforming cycle over and over again? It's difficult to know exactly when that's a fit for you because going through an architectural exercise, it's expensive, it's time consuming. It typically takes the same resources within your company to go through that exercise as it does to run your day-to-day business. So it's quite demanding process to go through internally. So this is that first example again of likely where you are, and the e-commerce platform is in the center of your universe. If you're thinking about replatforming, that's probably the time to take a pause and say, I might want to do an architectural exercise right now first. Replatforming cycles, statistically, every 3 to 5 years, a whole lot of money goes into them, then you grow, then you have to do it again in 3 to 5 years. So how is that avoided when you move to architecture instead of platform-led? This is a really simplified version, but basically it's moving the concept of architecture to the center of your digital universe. So again, there's no such thing as a bad architecture if you're living in that bubble on the left and you're making money and people aren't spending, you don't have somebody full-time doing a manual data entry job, you're probably okay to hang out there. But the architecture that's displayed on the right is showing that the e-com bubble has just moved out and is now a component of running your business. It's not the brain of your business. So a company like Shopify, they are a brilliant model, but they're not developing to match your business's workflow. They're trying to catch, 10 million, 20 million customers, and they're trying to be in that kind of middle of the road to serve as many people as they can, and then you have to do a plugin and an app and another subscription. So it's really important to be cognizant of when you might be a fit to take the importance away from your e-com platform and become architecturally centric in your business model. So how do you know where to start? Okay, we're consultants. There's a bunch of us out there that help you understand what technology should I keep? What should I replace? What's working? What could be better? What am I doing in two places that I don't even need to do in two places? What can I ditch? Because both of these models have a lot of monthly billing around them, right? So I'd encourage you guys to consider doing an internal exercise first if you think you're at this place. And I describe it as a really simple exercise because it's part of what we do every day, but maybe it's not a simple exercise in the real world within a business if you're not familiar with architecture. So it's 4 kind of concepts or ideas to think about. Firstly, I want you to think about quantifying the business pain. So I'll try to make an example here. If your business pain is between stock and inventory and fulfillment, and you have 4 people working full-time to make stock, inventory, and fulfillment connect manually, that is probably your biggest business pain. How much are you paying those people? How many things are being misshipped? How many hours are spent on the phone with the CSR because your customers are upset? Try to identify the financials around that. Go through each of the major departments and steps within your business cycle and try to identify how much money is going into this. If you think maybe at the end of that you have $50,000 that you're wasting that could be solved if things ran smoother, we always hear that, we just need to run smoother, then you can have a little bit of a budget in mind. If I spent half of this on improving my architecture, would I get that returned? So quantify that business pain. The second step I'm going to encourage you to do is I'm going to encourage you to know where your data lives. Data is a really boring topic to a lot of people, but it is the absolute power in how you're going to be successful on the web. And when I say data, I mean products, orders, customers, order history, stock and inventory. Where does that data live? And it doesn't need to be, you don't need to have a technical document overview. Just make a list. And do you have data that is living in one place and you're typing it into another place? We call this swivel chair process. Are you doing the same thing manually in two systems? You have an opportunity there if you are. Thirdly, road mapping out what you think your current architectural workflow looks like. So when I say that, I mean, no, pardon me, not architectural workflow, your business workflow. So just make a little bubble diagram. A product comes into my warehouse. Here's how I get it onto the website. Here's what happens when we sell it. Here's what happens to fulfill it. Here's how the customer receives it. Here's what happens when they return it. Put the people's names down that are all involved in all of those steps and figure out if it could be better. If you're like, man, I wish that I could skip this step and this step, perfect. You're on to my last little tidbit here, and that is to diagram out what you wish it could be. So now you have a little bit of a plan to move forward. So diagramming out where you're at now and what you want in the future. If you can get through those 4 exercises and you can say to yourself, there's a lot of room for improvement here, you're probably at the stage where you want architecture, or you are in that kind of orange bucket in the middle and you might need to move up. The concept of architecture scales greatly. So we have customers that are making $500 million a year, and this concept becomes much more important for them because as they try to pivot and be competitive and stay agile, they need to be able to control pieces in very small and siloed sections. So this comes back to the idea that you're going to be able to not only grow, but you're going to be able to scale. So if you just re-platform every 3 to 5 years, you're going to grow, but your expenses are going to grow, your problems are going to grow. If you're just adding people to help manage data, then you should be thinking maybe I need to be able to take a step back and look at my architecture to be able to scale. Oh, my S and E dropped down the line. My creative director would be so mad if he saw that slide. I think I did that. I'll blame myself for that. The reason why I have this slide up is not necessarily a lecture about growth versus scaling, but I want to illustrate that there's maybe even people in the room that sell the same products in their boxes. We see pet products with this, or pet boxes with the same identical products in each box. What is your competitive edge there? Because you're both selling cat food, which is great, but you're not going to be better than the other cat food. It has the same label on it. I encourage people to begin to think about themselves as a tech company. Companies that we see that are crushing their competitors is because they were not afraid to look at their technology. It wasn't an expense or a burden to them. It was the center of their business plan. So again, technology companies are in the room, not subscription box companies. So if there's anything you take away, I hope that it is that point. I want to give you a 3-minute case study on that concept with one of our customers. So TELUS Mobility, I'm sure you can hear that I'm Canadian because I've gotten called out on it 500 times in the last 2 days with my outs and abouts. We're Canadian, and TELUS is Canada's 2nd largest telecommunications company, so this would be like AT&T or Verizon here. So, and they're actually our customer to scale. We didn't just do a marketing ad for them once and call them our customer. These guys have been with us for about 12 years or so. So there's nothing unique about selling an iPhone or a Samsung Galaxy if you buy it from Verizon or AT&T. It is the exact same device. So TELUS had the same problem as selling the exact same product as the other competitor. They're a subscription company. They're selling you a monthly billing service on an extremely complicated level. They came to us about 12 years ago and they said, hey, we're building out our huge dream system. While it's being built, it's taking us about a year, while it's being built by this other company, can you give us a hand? We need to quickly put up a small commerce website, cell phones. Sure, we can do it. So it took us about 6 weeks, 2 months. We put together a website for them. This was back in the day when we used to build websites from phone calls on the phone type of a thing. And we got it live, and we sold a bunch of phones for them, and it was great. And then they said, okay, our new big shiny platform is ready. We're going to replace the thing you made. I said, okay, this was great. They put their new big shiny thing up, and they really quickly realized that it was hampering to what they needed to do online to be competitive. So The platform wouldn't allow the marketers to log in and do what they needed to do on the front end of the website. They had a huge fulfillment team and warehousing team, stock and inventory tracking. They were no longer allowed to do it their way. They had to do it the way the website said to do. So I'll give TELUS credit. When this happened, instead of being like, well, we spent $5 million on this thing, we're keeping it, they threw it out. They threw out the brand new website. They came back to us. They said, hey, can you bring that one out of the crypt? We need to put it back up. So we put back up the website that we had built because it was built on open architecture. It was built, and I mean, this started 10, 12 years ago. We're still doing this for them now on a much bigger scale in a much more flexible fashion. But the concept was the same all of those years ago, that the open architecture allowed for them to have choice, and so that they could be competitive. In the world of selling cell phones online, everything's a comp response, a competitive response. So the competitor put it on sale for $10, and all of a sudden they're calling us at midnight, and they're like, we need it to go on sale for $11 off. Okay, so we can do it. We can do it this system. So that's the world that they lived in. So how that became to excel in their business model was that there's something that happened when the iPhone 5 came out. The iPhone 5 was the first instance of an iPhone pre-order. I don't know if any of you guys have done this in the room, but I'm going to call you crazy. I think it's crazy. They put the phone on sale at midnight, and people like digitally line up, hammer the server, and try to be the first person to get that device. So when the iPhone 5 went up for sale at midnight, we had our open system there that we could respond to the need of the customer. And the need of the customer at that time is like, hey, we sold 3,000 devices in 2 minutes. And in those 2 minutes, we don't have any visibility on our stock and inventory anymore. So what the competitor would do would just put up a splash page that said, sorry, we're sold out. What we could do, because we had this open architectural concept, was that we could say, hey, great, thanks for buying from us. We think it's going to take about 3 weeks to arrive. Really, in the background, they didn't know because it was taking too long to connect to the service. So we could just turn that service off that checks stock and inventory. It's taking too long. So, hey, we think it'll take about 3 weeks to deliver this. If you're willing to wait, we'll also, and then it would check another service and be like, yeah, this guy's coming over from the competitor. We're going to give him a juicy offer. Yeah, also, you want a free iPad if you're willing to wait? Cool. And then people put it in the cart and buy. Now they're excited to wait 3 weeks for delivery. Plus they're getting an iPad, plus we stole a customer from the competitor. So the first iPhone pre-order that we did was the 5. Rogers went down, Bell went down, Apple.com went down. So those are the other 3 options in Canada to buy an iPhone that night. And TELUS stayed up. So this got a lot of attention from the leadership at TELUS, and it kind of skyrocketed the idea of open architecture within their business model, and our agency to help them with that thought pattern throughout the company. And so now fast forward to 2019, and we have a 15-man development team that works full-time on the concept of architecture for TELUS at our office instead of them having that internally. So it is a really important train of thought in order to be agile and be able to grow and scale your business. That's it. If you have questions, we've got 6 minutes to go. Also, we're at booth 314. Myself, a couple other architectural experts are there, and we have our CTO with us in case anybody has a specific question about where you're at. That's why we're here. So feel free to come on down, and we'll sit down with you one-on-one and chat it through. Any questions? No? All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.